Does everybody else have 4 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay, with that in mind, I will call the meeting to order. And I'm going to move a motion. Before we get started, I have a motion moved by Sherry Wan and second by Brent Cameron, the Bill McDonald Act as chair for September 19th, 2021 meeting. Any discussion on that? Anybody else want to do it? All in favor? Right. Carried. First thing I want to do is some opening remarks to make. I want to welcome everyone to this virtual meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of Township of Central Frontenac. I would first like to thank the members of the public, committee members, and staff for making this meeting possible so we can proceed with processing applications in a safe manner. Just so members of the public are aware, all members of the public are muted on our end and your cameras will not be turned on. For those of you who may be new to the Committee of Adjustment, my name is Bill McDonald. I will be chairing tonight's meeting. We also have with us Francis Smith.
Hello.
Brent Cameron.
Good afternoon.
Myself and Sherry Wan. Sherry, okay. Cindy Deishman, our deputy clerk, will be assisting us with the meeting as a meeting host, and we'll also be joined by planning staff, Jenny Kapuska, Crystal Netto, Dimitri Kurlovich, and Sonia Bolton. Only the Committee of Adjustment video will be on. The format of the meeting will follow the agenda posted online, which can be found on the Township's website. Staff have also prepared a presentation for everyone to follow along with during the meetings. This will be shown on the screen. If you have joined us via phone, we encourage you to open up the presentation and agenda and follow along. For each application with a public hearing, we will follow this format. I, as chair, will introduce the files so that everyone knows where we are on the agenda. The planner will provide an overview of the application. We will then ask if there are any comments from the applicant or their agent. Committee members will then ask staff and applicant or their agent questions if there are any. The public will then have an opportunity to ask questions. I encourage you to ask any questions and that you feel comfortable with the process. The committee will then deliberate and vote on the application. Voting will take place with members of the committee raising their hand. I will then state whether the vote was carried. If there are any previously deferred, no, I'll read that. All members of the public will have an opportunity to provide comments on the new applications. If a person or a public body does not make oral submission at the meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Frontenac before a decision is made, a person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. If there are any previously deferred items, we will be first on the agenda as the public meeting has already been held for those. And we carry on here. Township staff will be in touch following the meeting and we will be forwarding a copy of the decision within 15 days to the applicant and to anyone who has requested to be notified. Should you have any questions after the meeting, we encourage you to reach out to staff. The applicant, the minister, or any other person or public body who has an interest in the matter may, within 20 days of making the decision of the date of the notice of appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal against the decision of the committee by filing with the Secretary Treasurer of the committee a notice of appeal. The Ontario Land Tribunal is not accepting appeals at this time, and if there is an appeal to the application, staff will notify you of this and the process that we will look like. I will now ask Cindy Deishman to provide an overview of how members of the public can participate. Cindy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When the meeting is open to the public, the chair will ask the member of the public if they have any questions or comments. Members of the public will be asked to use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. This will alert the chair that you would like to speak. Staff will notify the chair that someone would like to speak and then we'll proceed to unmute your microphone. And as a member of the public, you will receive a notification that your microphone has been unmuted. Please wait a second after unmuting your microphone before speaking. If you are calling in by phone, please dial *9 when you would like to raise your hand during the meeting. You will hear a prompt on the phone that you have raised your hand and you will be notified when your microphone has been unmuted. This afternoon, it looks like we have six members of the public so far participating with us on the line. Mr. Chair?
Thank you. In the unlikely account that the committee members disconnect from the meeting will proceed if a quorum is met and the committee members will attempt to reconnect. Should all members of the committee disconnect, the meeting will be postponed and all members will be asked to reconnect. If the meeting cannot be restored within 15 minutes, the meeting will be postponed and staff will be in touch with each applicant. A notice will also be posted on the township social media, letting you know. Thank you for your patience as we embark on this virtual meeting. So with that, first motion I have is moved by Brent Cameron, second by Sherry Wan, that the agenda be adopted as. Were there any late additions or additions to the agenda that's been presented? None? Any discussion on the motion before us? All in favor? Motion's carried. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof by any member of the committee on any item on today's agenda? Nothing disclosed, the minutes will show so. I have a motion moved by Francis Smith and second by Sherry Wan that the minutes of August 12th, 2021 be adopted. Were there any errors or omissions as noted by anyone in the minutes? Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor? Motion's carried. First item on tonight's agenda is B 3421, Hinchinbrook Sinclair, creation of a new lot. Who's going to open the discussion on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's going to be Dimitri.
Dimitri, carry on.
Thank you. Just sharing my screen with you. Oh. Sorry, 1 second. There we go. That should be the correct one. Do you see the slides in front of you?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. So consent application B34 and 3521 KE proposed to create 2 new lots from a property located at part lot 1 and 2, concession 2 in the geographic township of Hinchinbrook. These applications were deferred at the last committee meeting due to insufficient information related to barn and livestock that's required for a minimum distance separation calculation, as well as issues related to a trespass road that was located on the east side of the subject lot, specifically the traveled portion of Hinchinbrook Road North. Staff have now received enough information required to provide an adequate recommendation to the committee. So just to recap, the first lot that's proposed will be approximately 2.19 hectares in area with 5.41 acres in size, with 188 meters of frontage on Craig Road and 123 meters of frontage on Hinchinbrook Road North. The second lot will be about 8.27 hectares or 20 acres in area, with approximately 140 meters or 400 feet of frontage on the northern portion of Hinchinbrook Road North, and approximately 120 meters or about 394 feet of frontage on the southern portion of Hinchinbrook Road North. The retained parcel will be approximately 37.1 hectares in area or 91 acres, with approximately 1.1 kilometers of frontage along Craig Road. All the proposed and severed and retained lots are designated as rural and are anticipated to be developed with residential uses. The application was circulated to the Township of South Frontenac for comments related to septic system suitability and the Quinte Conservation Authority for comments related to natural hazards and natural heritage. The Township of South Frontenac staff did not object to the application. They determined that the proposed and retained lots can support a septic system in various locations. It should, however, be noted that the final location for a septic system will be determined once a development is proposed, and that determination will happen during the building permit stage. The Quinte Conservation Authority also did not object to the application. They determined that all the proposed and retained lots contain enough area for development outside of any flood-related hazards or natural heritage features. Other than the unevaluated wetlands that you see on the dark areas of the map, QCA staff did not identify any other natural heritage features. It should be noted that any development within 45 meters or 148 feet of any high water mark or top of slope associated with any water body or wetland will require a work permit from the Conservation Authority. that has been reflected in the conditions attached in the staff report. There were no comments received from the public. In terms of the trespass road issue, as illustrated by the red hashing on the right-hand side of your screen here, upon being made aware of the situation, the applicant did agree to dedicate the traveled portion of Hinchinbrook Road North for the purpose of establishing a municipal right-of-way and to resolve the existing trespass road situation on both of the proposed parcels. The dedication will include a 1 meter buffer to the west to ensure that there's adequate room for any type of maintenance work or snow removal, for example, and it will include all remnant parcels east of the travel portion of the road. While reviewing the application, staff did identify a number of livestock facilities within 1.5 kilometers of the subject property. So in accordance with the provincial policy statement, all new lots must demonstrate that there's enough developable area located on any severed or retained lot that is sufficiently separated from livestock facilities. And that's done through what's called an MDS1 or a minimum distance separation calculation. The MDS formula are land use planning tools that determine setback distances between livestock barns, manure storages, or anaerobic digesters and their surrounding land uses. Basically, the objective of the MDS is to minimize land use conflicts that's associated with nuisance complaints related to odor. An MDS1 calculation was completed by county staff for the maximum design capacity of a barn that was identified to contain livestock facility. The calculation was based on the class of livestock on the property, as well as the size of the barn. The existing number and type of livestock, that information was provided by the applicant. And the only agricultural building that was determined to have an impact on the subject property was located on the lot adjacent to the east at 7181 Hinchinbrook Road. The barn on the property was estimated to be approximately 160 square meters or about 1,700 square feet, and it was found to contain 10 pigs and a mix of quail and guinea hens. The MDS1 calculation determined that the maximum capacity of feeder pigs that could be potentially supported by the 160 square foot barn is approximately 160 animals. Under these conditions, a residential development envelope will need to be located approximately 293 meters or 962 feet from the edge of the barn. The map on the slide in front of you illustrates the maximum potential buffer in white, and then underneath that in pink is are the present day conditions. So planning staff are the opinion that the proposed two severed lots contain enough lot area for residential development if the barns were to operate under maximum potential conditions. It should be noted that once development is proposed or residential development is proposed on those severed lots, that they will be subject to the MDS calculation once again during the building permit stage. So overall, planning staff recommend that the Committee of Adjustment hear comments from the public and approve the two consent application as submitted and subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dimitri. Cindy, are there any comments, anybody from their applicant or agent in regard to this request?
I don't believe the applicant is on. If there is anyone representing the applicant, can they please raise their hand if they wish to speak? There is no one, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any member of the committee, do you have any questions or comments in regard to this application? None? Is there anybody from the public, Cindy, that would interested in asking a question?
If there's anyone who wishes to speak, can you please use the raise hand feature? I see none, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Then I'll read the motion. This is a motion moved by Brent Cameron, second by Francis Smith, that consent application B34-201 Hinchinbrook for the property located on part lot 1 and 2, concession 2 in the geographic township of Hinchinbrook to create a 2.19 hectare, 5.41 acre parcel as a new lot be approved, subject to the conditions noted in the planning report. That the Secretary Treasurer issued the notice of decision in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act, including providing the notice of decision to the applicant, any person or public body that made a written request to be notified and any other person or public body prescribed, and that all conditions outlined in the notice of decision shall be completed and the certificate of official issued within a period of 1 year after the notice of decision was issued as required by the Planning Act. Any further discussion on the motion before us? Francis, go ahead.
I have a question. When we were sharing the screen, I believe it was KE on the application, but this is in Hinchinbrook, is it not?
It is in Hinchinbrook Ward.
Okay.
Yes,
Dimitri is.
Yeah, sorry about that. I do believe that's a mistake on my end when preparing the slides.
Okay,
should
so
be
it's
HI.
just on the slide.
Yeah, it's just on the
Okay,
slides.
thanks.
It's not, I don't believe it's reflected in the staff report.
No, so it doesn't alter the motion in any way, shape, or form. Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Any other discussion or fun? All in favor of the motion before us? Motion's carried. The next item is B2521 Hinchinbrook Sinclair, creation of a new lot. Dimitri, is your report any different than the first one?
Mr. Chair, no, the report and the previous presentation addressed both applications.
Okay, then I have a motion moved by Sherry and second by Francis that the consent application B3521 Hinchinbrook Sinclair for the property located on Part Lot 1 and 2, Concession 2 in the geographic township of Hinchinbrook to create an 8.27 hectare, 20.44 acre parcel as a new lot be approved, subject to the conditions noted in the planning report. And that the Secretary Treasurer shall issue the notice of decision in accordance with the requirement of the Planning Act, including providing the notice of decision to the applicant, any person or public body that made a written request to be notified, and any other person or public body prescribed, and that all conditions outlined in the notice of decision shall be completed and the certificate of official issued within the period of 1 year after the notice of decision was issued as required by the Planning Act. Any further discussion, members of the committee?
Mr. Chair, I'm just wondering if we should give the opportunity for the public, just because it's a separate application.
That may be a good point. Okay, we should ask, the applicant's not on the line, is there?
I don't believe so. If the applicant or if there's any member of the public that wishes to speak, if you can please use the raise hand feature. I see none, Mr. Chair.
Nobody in the public at all?
No, nobody has raised their hand.
Okay, then I'll call the question again. All in favor of the motion before us? Motion's carried. The next item on our application for consent, B3821 House Waller. Who's going to lead the discussion on this one?
That would be Sonia, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. Good evening. Yeah, this is an application for consent for a lot addition. The subject parcel is part of lots 29 and 30 in concession 4 and 5 of the former geographic township of Hinchinbrook. Is located on House Lane. The severed parcel is intended to be a 0.267 hectare or 0.66 acre parcel with approximately 85 meters on House Lane. The retained parcel will have frontage on Long Lake, as well as a number of road frontage parcels as well. It's quite a large parcel. I'm going to show this next slide here in a second here with the map. But the retained parcel will be over 17.5 hectares in size, or 43.3 acres. The parcels are all zoned either rural or waterfront residential and are in the rural area waterfront district of the official plan. Now, the parcel that will benefit from this application, I'm just trying to change slides here 1 second. There we go. So not all of the retained parcel is shown here, but this is sort of a portion of it. It's just this small piece here that you see that is actually being severed here in green. It is being added to this parcel here, which is the benefiting parcel located at 1040D House Lane. So this is currently an undersized waterfront residential lot of 0.4 hectares or 1 acre that currently they have just over 90 meters of frontage on Long Lake, but they do not actually have any legal road frontage on House Lane itself. So this lot addition will make the lot larger and rectify the situation so that they will have legal frontage on the road. In terms of comments, the Township of South Frontenac for septic inspection was not circulated, as no new development is currently proposed. We didn't have comments from Rideau Valley Conservation Authority at the time the report was written late last week, but we have since then received comments from them, and they have no objection to the application. They had some recommendations that staff will address in the final report. And we, to date, we don't have any public comments on this application. Now, the recommendation before the committee tonight is to hear comments from the public as part of the public meeting, but staff are recommending deferral of the application for the time being. It was brought to our attention a couple of weeks ago by the Township's Deputy Clerk that there were some questions and concerns with respect to how legal title to some of the lands are currently being shown. So my understanding is that the applicant has been made aware of that issue and that they need to resolve that issue with their lawyers prior to the committee making a final decision on the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Cindy, are there any comments from the applicant or their agent?
The applicant or agent is on the meeting. I don't believe they are. I see no one, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Does any member of the committee have a comment on this application before I read it? Is there anybody in the public that would have a question on this, Cindy?
Again, if anyone wishes to speak, please use the raise hand feature. I see no one, Mr. Chair.
Okay, with that in mind, then I will read the motion moved by Francis Smith, second by Brent Cameron, that consent application B2821 Hinchinbrook House, part lot 29 and 30, concession 4 in the geographic township of Hinchinbrook for a 0.267 hectare, 6.66 acre parcel as a lot addition be deferred until such time as the concerns raised by the Township of Central Frontenac regarding legal title to the land have been addressed to the township's satisfaction. Any further discussion on the motion before us? All in favor? This motion is carried. The next item on tonight's agenda is B3921 Olden Taylor, creation of a new lot. Who's leading off the discussion on this one?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That will be myself, Jenny, tonight. This is an application for the creation of one new waterfront residential property from a fairly large existing property. The retained parcel will be 42.7 hectares or just over 100 acres in area. It has multiple zones on it: rural, limited service rural, residential waterfront, and environmental protection exception zone 1, which indicates the presence of potential for organic soils. The proposed severed parcel will have approximately 107 meters or 350 feet of water frontage on Kennebec Lake. Will be about 2.95 hectares or 7.3 acres in area. Both of the severed and retained are designated rural in the official plan and is noted to have mixed zoning on them. In addition to the new lot to be created, so on here you can see the proposed lot here is located at the western end of the subject property, which extends with frontage along Kennebec Lake, Cox's Lake, and this river in the middle, whose name escapes me at this precise point. The current access to the subject property is from North Road. It is a shared access that comes in and accesses the subject property. This property here with frontage on Cox Lake, as well as one that's addressed as 1881B. Subject property's addressed as 1881C. Interestingly enough, on the opposite side of North Road is 1881A. So one of the recommendations of planning staff with regards to this When extending this existing right-of-way is to transform it from just a shared right-of-way into a new named private road, private lane, in conformity with the Frontenac County Private Roads Policy for construction standards and with the Township of Central Frontenac's official plan policies, which permits up to 2 properties having a shared driveway, not 4 or 5, as would be the result of this application. So planning staff are recommending that the entire length of the extension be constructed and surveyed to the 20-meter width standard as per the private lanes policy. The existing portion will be brought up to standards for emergency services vehicle access, and that this existing spur to serve these 2 lots here will be a shared driveway with a new number in alignment with the 911 numbering policy. Again, you can see on this next one, the proposed severance is at the end, and there is a existing roadway that accesses the existing development on the subject property. So while it is a fairly long extension to the existing right-of-way, the majority of that roadway is already constructed. And the new construction part likely will only be the area where it continues on past the existing residence. The applicants are fully aware of the requirements recommended for the construction and surveying and are all right with that. This application was circulated for review of septic suitability. Comments dated August 16th, 2021 indicate no objection to the application as proposed. Quinte Conservation also has reviewed the application and indicated no objections as proposed and expressed no concerns with the location of the proposed right-of-way. Planning staff did have conversations with conservation as to why they were choosing to go in on the long way versus the short way from Baker Valley. Realistically, while that would have been a shorter option, it would have required working with additional property owners, and the applicants opted to go the easier route of granting themselves a right-of-way over their own property to access this, and it makes sense with regards to renumbering and renaming the existing access from North Road. Wrong one. Based on review of the application submitted, comments provided by the technical agencies, and conformity of official plan and township policies, planning staff are recommending approval of this application as submitted, subject to the conditions that are stated in the planning report.
Thank you, Jenny. Cindy, is there any comments from the applicant or their agent?
The applicant is attending. Mr. Taylor, do you wish to speak? Can you use the raise hand feature? Okay, just a moment, please. Okay, I moved you over. You should be able to speak.
No, I guess I don't really have much to say. Just thank you for the consideration, and we tried to adhere to all the different bylaws and minimum lot sizes and all that. So yeah, that's it. I don't really have much else to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Committee members, is there anybody in the public, Cindy, that have a comment on this?
If there's anybody wishing to comment, please use the raise hand feature. I see no one, Mr. Chair.
Any member of the committee have any comments in regard to this application? Seeing none, I will read the motion. This motion is moved by Brent Cameron, sent by Francis Smith, that consent application B3921. I think this application actually should be Olden Taylor for the property located in Part Lot 121 concession, geographic township of Olden, to create a 2.95 hectare, 7.3 acre parcel as a new lot be approved, subject to the conditions noted in the planning report. That Secretary Treasurer shall issue the notice of decision in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act, including providing the notice of decision to the applicant, any person or public body that made a written request to be notified, and any other person or public body prescribed and that the conditions outlined in the notice of decision shall be completed and the certificate of official issued within a period of 1 year after the notice of decision was issued as required by the Planning Act. Any further discussion, members? All in favor of the motion? This motion is carried. Next item on our agenda is B 4021, Hinchinbrook Brown. Who's leading the discussion on this one?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's Dimitri again.
Okay, carry on, sir.
Application B 4021 proposes to sever a lot addition parcel from a lot located at 1725 Wagerville Road in the geographic township of Hinchinbrook. The lot addition parcel is located on the northern extent of the subject lot and measures approximately 3.17 hectares or 7.82 acres in area, with approximately 46 meters or 151 feet of frontage along with Wagerville Road. The retained lot will be approximately 10.5 hectares or 25.8 acres in area, with approximately 384 meters or 1,260 feet of frontage along Wagerville Road. The retained lot will contain all existing development, which consists of a residential dwelling as well as an accessory building, which is a garage. The subject land as well as the benefiting lands are all zoned as rural and environmental protection zone 1 in the township's zoning bylaw. The lot addition parcel is intended to be added to part of the road allowance that sits between concession 5 and 6 on part lot 24. I've highlighted this on the map in orange that you can see on your screen. However, in order for this application to proceed, the road allowance will need to be closed, sold, and merged with the landlocked parcel located on part lot 24 concession 5, which has been identified as the benefiting parcel on the slide. It's staff understanding that the owner of the landlocked parcel is currently in the process of purchasing the abutting portion of the road allowance. This application is conditional on the closure, the sale, and the merger of the road allowance parcel with the landlocked parcel. Since there is no development proposed for any of the lots in question, this application was not circulated to the township of South Frontenac for comments related to septic system suitability. However, it should be noted that, of course, during the building permit stage, a septic system approval will be required. The application was circulated to the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority for comments related to natural hazards and natural heritage. At the time of writing the staff report, no comments were received from RVCA. However, RVCA staff did indicate over email that they have no objections to the application. Formal comments were received on September 7th. Although RVCA staff did not conduct a site visit, their comments identified the property to contain organic soils, which is reflected by the EP1 zoning, and it also identified the lot addition parcel to be located over top of a highly vulnerable aquifer. RVCA staff also identified the presence of wetlands and a portion of a water course running through the property. The recommendation there was that any future development should be set back 30 meters or 98 feet from the water body, from any water body, which includes wetlands, water courses, as well as ponds. They also recommended the implementation of erosion and sediment control fencing during construction. The committee should note that the township zoning bylaw already establishes a 30-meter water body setback from wetlands and water bodies and water courses. Therefore, no additional development agreement or anything like that is recommended at this point. Overall, the RVCA did not object to the application as proposed. So as such, planning staff recommend that the Committee of Adjustment hear comments from the public and approve the application as submitted, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report.
Thank you. Are there any comments, Cindy, from the applicant or their agent?
Don't believe the applicant is on the meeting. If there is anyone, please raise hand. I see no one.
Okay, is there anybody from the public that might be interested in asking a question?
Please use the raise hand feature if there's any member of the public wishing to speak. I see none, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Is there any member of the committee that have any comments for the planners before I read the motion? Francis, go ahead.
I have a question for Dimitri. When it shows the orange road allowance that's going to be stopped up and closed, and then there's a section of road allowance north of that, if I'm got my directions right.
Yeah.
Is there an access from the main road down to that road allowance?
I'm not quite sure at this time. I do know that there is a guide rail, I believe, or some kind of barrier that does prevent access to the interior lots that would be accessed by that road allowance. However, that road allowance is basically located within a wetland, so it's very difficult to pass through, if not impossible, from my understanding at least.
And Madam,
This one-
if I may
Go ahead.
add to Dimitri, I've had discussions with the applicant as part of the road closure process, and he has confirmed that it is not, there's no physical access over that road allowance due to the topography. It's very wet.
Okay. So
Okay.
how do they access the lot?
At the present time, the benefiting parcel, so the large parcel that you saw on the right, is considered to be a landlocked parcel. So it has no, essentially no access. It can be accessed if you walk along the road allowance, but because of the issues with the wetland, it's basically impassable from my understanding. What this lot addition is going to do is it's essentially going to provide frontage for the benefiting parcel through a series of lot additions and mergers.
Okay.
Right. So that creates a better access to Wiggerville Road then.
That is correct, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments or inquiries about any member of the committee? Hearing none, I will read the motion. This is moved by Sherry Wan, second by Francis Smith, that the consent application B4021 Hinchinbrook Brown for the property located on part lot 24, concession 6 in the geographic township of Hinchinbrook to create a 3.17 hectare, 7.83 acre parcel as a lot addition be approved subject to the conditions noted in the planning report with the following amendments and additions. Condition number 3, the lands to be severed are for the purpose of a lot addition only to the adjacent lands described as northwest 1/4 lot 24 concession 5 Hinchinbrook, and that the portion of the closed road allowance described in condition level 11 and any other subsequent transfers, charge or other conveniences of the land to be severed is subject to section 53 or subsection 55 if in a plan of subdivision of the Planning Act. Neither the lands to be severed nor the adjacent lands are to be reconveyed without the other parcel unless a further consent is obtained. The owner shall cause the lands to be severed to be consolidated on title with the adjacent lands, and for this condition to be entered into the parcel registry as a restriction. Condition 4 is amended as follows: that the schedule for consent includes the names of the transferees and transferees, a description of the parcel being severed, and the wording in condition 3 above. Said wording can be amended to reflect the updated survey description for the road allowance. And that the Secretary Treasurer shall issue the notice of decision in accordance with the requirement of the Planning Act, including and providing the notice of decision to the applicant, any person or public bodies that made a written request to be notified, and any other person or public body prescribed, and that all conditions outlined in the notice of decision shall be completed, and the certificate of official issued within a period of 1 year after the notice of decision was issued as required by the Planning Act. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Next item on our agenda tonight is B4121 Axelson Lot Addition. Who's leading the discussion on this one?
That would be Sonia, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I think we missed application B42 for Colgan. It should have been before Axelson. Oh, no, it's in the wrong order. Sorry, you're right, Bill. It's on the wrong order in my agenda.
What's that? Sorry.
No, I just have it as Colgan first, but it's application B42, so B41 Axelson is first.
Oh, but what did I say, 42? B41 Axelson, is that the one you're doing?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that's what I have in front of me here.
Okay, great, thank you. This is an application for consent for a lot addition. The subject property is at 1207 Marshall Coda Road in Olden. The severed parcel is going to be have 33 meters or 108 feet of frontage on Marshall Coda Road and no water frontage. The retained parcel will have 104 meters or 341 feet on Marshall Coda Road, and there will be no change to the current lake frontage of just around 110 meters. My apologies, I didn't include the details here on the slide about the benefiting parcel, but the benefiting parcel as part of this application is at 1230 Marshall Coda Road. It is a 0.57 hectare or 1.4 acre waterfront residential lot that has 38.3 meters or 126 feet of frontage along Marshall Coda Road and approximately 110 meters or 362 feet of frontage along Long Lake Road or Long Lake. So this slide here shows the retained parcel, the benefiting or receiving parcel is here, and the lot addition, it's a triangular shaped lot addition. And the reason for the lot addition, it already contains a portion of the driveway, lawn, and gardens that have been maintained by 1230 Marshall Coda Road. So this is to be conveyed to that property owner. No new development is currently proposed for either the severed, benefiting, or retained lands. And there will be no change in terms of lot frontage, but it will bring the benefiting or receiving property into compliance with the required amount of road frontage along Marshall Coda Road, and it will increase the size of a currently undersized existing residential lot. Now, Marshall Coda Road is a portion of it is municipally owned and maintained, but that is to the north of the subject property. This portion is actually part of a private lane. And my understanding from a conversation earlier today with the deputy clerk is that the draft conditions that were listed in the report are now going to include an amendment with respect to the easement for this private lane. In terms of comments, the septic inspection team at South Frontenac were not circulated in this instance as no new development is proposed. Comments from the Conservation Authority did come in late, but they have indicated no objection to the application as it is proposed. And currently, to date, we have not received any comments or questions from the public. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Cindy is the applicant or their agent online. Have any questions or comments?
I don't believe the applicant is on the line unless it's the phone in listener. If there is, can you please use the raise hand feature? I see no one, Mr. Chair.
Okay, is there anybody in the public that have want to ask questions in regard to this application?
Again, if anyone wishes to speak, please use the raise hand feature. I see none, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any member of the committee have any comments in regard to this application? Okay, then seeing none, I will read the motion. This moved by Brent Cameron, second by Sherry Wan, the consent application B4121 Olden Axelson on the property located in Part Lot 1, Concession 4 in the geographic township of Olden to create a 0.14 hectare, 0.35 acre parcel as a lot addition be approved, subject to the conditions noted in the planning report with the following amendments. Addition to condition 3A as follows. The legal description for land to be severed must include a reference to being subject to any existing registered easement on title. Amendment to condition 6, that the schedule for consent includes the names of the transferors and transferees as a description of the parcel being severed, the legal description for the lands being added to, and the wording in condition 4. That the Secretary Chair shall issue the notice of decision in accordance with the requirement of the Planning Act, including providing the notice of decision to the applicant or any person or public body that made a written request to be notified and any other person or public body prescribed, and that all conditions outlined in the notice of decision shall be completed and the certificate of official issued within a period of 1 year after the notice of decision was issued as required by the Planning Act. Any further comment by any member of the committee? All in favor of the motion before us? Motion's carried. Next item on our agenda tonight is B 4221 Coghlan. Who wants to lead the application?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That will be myself this evening. This is an application to grant access along an existing traveled right-of-way, in addition to granting an extension to that right-of-way. The land that will benefit from this application is the blue one here at the end. I have a further detail on the next slide as well. The benefiting lot does have an undeveloped existing right-of-way, so it does have deeded access. However, the location of that deeded access is over wetlands and is really considered inappropriate for development. So in order to facilitate access, this application has been put forward. Here on the next slide, you can see this is the copy of the survey that was submitted by the applicants along with the application. So this part 8 here is the existing developed access for the waterfront lots here, as well as a number over here that has a road, private lane constructed on it. And the proposal is to add a portion here at the end in red that will link the existing right-of-way to the benefiting lands here at the end. The green area here along the bottom of the subject property is where the existing deeded right-of-way for the benefiting lands is located. Again, there's a large number of wetlands in different areas in this area that we're making it inappropriate for development. This application was not initially circulated to Quinte Conservation for review, as the right-of-way was not running along the waterfront or within 30 meters. Subsequent to comments received by neighbors, I believe part 1 and 2 on this property, who have a decent interest in this extension, as it does butt up to the rear of their properties. They expressed concerns with the location of that proposed extension, indicating that that actually, in fact, also was a wet area and inappropriate for development, similar to the justification of not using the existing deeded right-of-way. So this application was subsequently circulated to Quinte Conservation. They've been out to do a site visit and have agreed that the initially proposed area for this right-of-way extension is wetlands and really should not be where the new road is constructed. So planning staff are recommending deferral of this application at this time until a revised location can be determined. I believe the applicants have worked with Quinte Conservation to come up with a new plan that will be a little bit farther out than where the red area is currently proposed, that will circumnavigate those wetlands, but will still facilitate access to the benefiting lands that links up to the existing traveled right-of-way. Additionally to this, during the review of the application and the property, it was determined by planning staff that the yellow line here is the existing right-of-way that goes from Echo Lake Road all the way up to the properties here, with a spur in here on the green that also serves the property. So that means that this existing right-of-way serves 13 properties, including the subject property. It is not a named lane. The addressing is interesting, with, I believe, 4 of the waterfront property showing up as having the exact same address, as an A off Echo Lake Road, with the main property being sometimes an A and sometimes not a letter. So what planning staff are recommending, and have worked with the applicants who are highly in favor of this and have begun the process with Public Works, is that as part of this application, the right-of-way will not only be extended, but it will be converted into a named private lane. In fact, it will actually become 2 named lanes, with the yellow lane being 1 name and serving to access these properties and corresponding appropriate civic addressing. And the green spur here that you can see on the other side, which serves to access, I believe, 4 or 5 properties on this side, will become a 2nd named lane. This is to ensure that these properties can be appropriately accessed by emergency services. The applicants did note during pre-application that There had been some challenges when emergency services had been required to be called out to these properties, that they couldn't find what they were looking for or where they were going, that the addressing was inappropriate. So for the safety of all involved and also for best planning practices and conformity of the official plan that only permits 2 properties to share a right-of-way, not 13. Planning staff are recommending that as part of this approval, once this returns when the extension area can be appropriately determined, that this will become 2 named lanes with the appropriate addressing along it. However, due to the concerns expressed by the neighbors and Quinte Conservation, planning staff are recommending deferral at this time until an appropriate location for this extension can be determined that does not pass through the wetland areas.
Thank you, Jenny. Cindy, are there any comments from the applicant or their agent?
I do believe the applicant is on. Just a moment, please. Okay, I have moved you over. I think you are muted. You may have to unmute. And to do that on the phone, I believe you try *6. There we go.
Hello, it's Linda and Al Colgan here. Thank you for the time this evening. We have submitted a separate proposal, and it's now in the hands of Quinte. It will be around that wetland bordering on a rock face. We had previously cut it out years ago, and we have now sent that back in today with the measurements.
Thank you. Committee members, do you have any questions for the applicant or their agent?
Like, once Conservation Authority have dealt with that, we should probably be able to have the application back next meeting. Is that right, Jenny?
That is correct, Madam Mayor. That is what we are anticipating, that if all goes well, this should be able to return to the October meeting. The revised location will be recirculated out to all those who requested notice as a result of this initial public circulation to make sure that any of the neighbor comments are appropriately addressed also.
Thank you. Jenny, is there anybody in the public that want to ask questions?
I do have, just a moment, please. I'm going to move Louise Moran-Shea over. Go ahead, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
great.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I own part 1 of the property. So that is the original area would be backed right up on my property line over the wetland. So I'm very happy to hear that a new location is being, I'm right there. I'm very happy to hear that a new location. I was just wondering if Linda could maybe confirm the part that she's talking about that is the cutout part. I'm wondering if it is the original one that's across from part 3.
Correct.
That's correct, Linda?
Correct.
Okay, so yeah, I'm really, really happy to hear that for a number of reasons. My only other concern is the actual condition of the existing roadway and what development of a road would do to our existing road. I think my neighbor at part 2, Pete Pelche, is also on the line, and maybe I could ask him to speak to that, as he is part of a land road company in Ottawa. So Pete, are you willing to do that, or do you want me to go on?
Just a moment, he is got his hand up. I'll move him over.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep. Okay, Pete, can you unmute yourself? Here we go. Go ahead.
Yes. Everybody hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thanks for inviting us. Actually, Louise stole most of my thunder there. I think in my email comments, I had mentioned about that existing cleared path around the wetlands that was done a number of years ago. So I think that would probably be the best location, and it's on solid ground also, as opposed to going through the wet area. And yeah, there is a bit of a concern with the whole of Part 8. Both myself and one other neighbor have been the only people maintaining this roadway in quite some time. There hasn't been any upgrades in a number of years. And if there was construction traffic in any months other than July or August, that road would be completely demolished as far as my experience goes. So we would have to come to some sort of agreement on that, I feel. And I think that would be only fair. And the only other thing that I would like to ask is that in the revised notice of application that was sent out on August 19th, after my correspondence with the township, the purpose and effect portion of that notice was modified. And the first line mentioned the purpose of the application is to sever and convey an easement over the existing right-of-way described as Part 8, Plan 13R 8901. Is that what we're talking about, is severing Part 8, or are we just talking about conveying an easement over an existing right-of-way is one of my questions.
Jenny?
Mr. Chair, I can absolutely address that. I understand your confusion. The wording for sever and convey for the purposes of an easement is related to Planning Act. This is a consent application. It is considered a severance application. However, it's for the conveyance of an easement rather than for the conveyance of the land. The land will remain in the ownership of the applicants. It is merely that in order to legally grant a right-of-way that can be registered on title, it has to go through this process, which is considered a consent or severance process under the Planning Act. I absolutely understand that can be quite confusing. Nothing will change on the ground.
Okay.
No land is moving. And also with regards to the condition of the right-of-way, part of the requirements or recommended conditions of planning staff for the existing Part 8 will be that it will be brought up to a standard that is able to facilitate emergency vehicle access to the satisfaction of the Township of Central Frontenac Public Works. What that may or may not require will be up to the township staff who come out and do the inspection. The extension part of the right-of-way will be surveyed and constructed, or at least recommended to be surveyed and constructed in conformity with the Frontenac County Private Lane Study, which requires a 20-meter survey width and then has standards for minimum road construction, including crowns and gravel types and other things that go into engineering. That's more than I know anything about.
Well, that's my business. So I'm pretty familiar with it, and so I have no problem with saying that the existing Part 8 roadway is not up to those standards. And for light vehicular traffic, it will suffice. But for heavy traffic, which was required for building purposes, it would definitely be a major issue, especially the first leg coming in off of Echo Lake Road for the first 300-400 meters. But okay, so I guess we'll wait to see the revised application, and we will proceed from there.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Can I say something here? It's Linda Colgan. There is an association that takes care of the roadway, and we all contribute to it. We are the owners of the road. Cottagers have a right-of-way over the road, and there is an association that takes care of the road.
Thank you. I would assume you'd have a maintenance agreement also among the members using it. Okay, members of the committee, do you have any further comments?
I have a comment again. Sorry for interrupting. It's Louise Moran.
Yes.
First of all, if the road was to be constructed, I wonder about who would bear the cost of the road. And Linda, the road hasn't been maintained in quite a while. So I'm sure you know that there are huge potholes everywhere. So I don't know what the association's been doing lately. I know it's been a difficult year with COVID. And I don't know if that's the problem, but the road has definitely not been maintained.
I believe that Peter LeBlanc and Henry Joannesy are the ones responsible.
Yeah, it's Pete can speak to this too. Like you can't go more than 2 or 3 kilometers per hour over that road without taking the undercarriage of your car off.
That's a separate issue. So I think we should discuss it with Peter LeBlanc and Henry Joannesy.
Agreed.
Okay, we'll move forward with this application, and those issues can be worked out among the members on the road. I just want to ask the members of the committee, do you have any comments or questions in regard to this application? Hearing none, I'll read the motion. Moved by Francis Smith, second by Sherry Wan, the consent application B4221 Hinchbrook, Coghlan, Part Lot 16, Concession 7, and the Geographic Township of Hinchbrook to create a right-of-way be deferred until such times as the concerns raised by the Quincy Conservation Authority have been addressed. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion before us? Motion's carried. So this will be coming back to us at some point in the future.
Thank you.
Next item on tonight's agenda is B4421 Hinchinbrook to Rue, creation of new lot. Who's leading the discussion on this one?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That is also going to be me here. Let me bring up my screen. All right, so this is an application for the creation of one new waterfront residential lot. We'll have approximately 200 meters, 650 feet of frontage on Coal Lake, be about 3.26 hectares or 8.1 acres in area, with no road frontage on Clow Road, as that will go with the retained parcel. This severance will take all of the water frontage from the subject property and have it all with the severed parcel, and the retained parcel will no longer have any road frontage on or any frontage on the lake. The retained parcel will have about 493 meters of road frontage along Clow Road and be about 27.5 hectares or 68 acres in area. The subject property is both zoned and designated as rural. You can see on this map how this works out. So this property is currently accessed via Dalton Lane. And this is the parcel we're looking at severing off from the retained parcel. The retained parcel will encompass this large area here and will continue to be bisected by Dalton Lane, which will serve this parcel, along with a number of other waterfront parcels that already exist down the lane. This was not circulated for review to South Frontenac for septic inspection, as the severed parcel has existing on-site services and the retained has more than enough area that it's anticipated there should be no issues with locating a septic somewhere in the 100 acres. Despite the number of some wetlands and water bodies, there's still a large area that is dry land that is suitable for development. This was circulated for review to Quincy Conservation Authority, and comments dated September 7th indicated no objection to the application as proposed. There are no public comments received with this. Planning staff are recommending approval of the application as submitted and subject to the comments in the planning report, in addition to an amendment to those conditions that includes the creation of a right-of-way over the existing Dalton Lane to serve as access to this waterfront parcel. That was not included in the planning report, but was subsequently determined to be appropriate for this application, and that condition should be included in the resolution. Other than that, planning staff are recommending approval of this application.
Thank you, Jenny. Are there any comments from their applicant or their agent, Cindy?
The applicant is on the line. Linda DeRue, would you like to speak? You can use the raise hand feature. I see none, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Oh, wait, sorry. She has put her hand up. I'm going to move her over. Okay, can you unmute your microphone and then you can go ahead?
Can we go ahead now?
Yes, you can. We can hear you.
Okay,
Yes.
George is here. George Drew is here.
Yeah, we're in our 70s and we've had people interested in our residence, which is too big for us with stairs. And I have a lot right on the Cloud Road where I don't have to maintain the laneway and the big lawn. My son lives right there too, so he'll be maintaining the laneway to this property. He uses it for hunting and fishing, and so that's the purpose of severing this, is to build a smaller house with everything on one level on a slab right within 100 feet of the Cloud Road. But anyway, I appreciate everybody's help that I've had there, and hopefully this will go through.
Thank you. Committee members, do you have any questions for the applicant or agent? None? Is there anybody in the public that have a comment on this one? Cindy?
If there's anyone wishing to speak, please use the raise hand feature. I see none, Mr. Chair.
Okay, in that question, does any committee member have any further comments on the application? Seeing none, I will read the motion. This motion is moved by Brent Cameron, second by Francis Smith, that consent application B4421 Hinchinbrook DeRue for the property located on part lot 7, concession 3 in the geographic township of Hinchinbrook to create a 3.26 hectare, 8.1 acre parcel as a new lot, together with an easement for the access to be approved, subject to the conditions noted in the planning report with the following addition. 1. Addition to 5A as follows: the legal description for the new lot shall also include the creation of a new easement over the retained lands to provide vehicle and pedestrian access over Dalton Lane to the Cloud Road. That the Secretary Treasurer shall issue the notice of decision in accordance with the requirement of the Planning Act, including providing the notice of decision to the applicant, any person or public body that made a written request to be notified, and any other person or public body prescribed, and that all the conditions outlined in the notice of decision shall be completed and the certificate of official issued within the period of 1 year after the notice of decision was issued as required by the Planning Act. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Okay.
Chair, just so that you know that Cindy Kelsey has joined us.
What's that, sorry?
Cindy Kelsey has joined us as well.
Okay, good. Glad to hear that. I see her name here, so she may be in position to move a motion or something. So anyway, the next item on our program, or actually the next 3 items are mores. Who wants to lead the discussion on that one?
Once again, Mr. Chair, that will be me. These applications are for the creation of 3 new rural residential lots with frontage along Second Lake Road. The first lot is proposed to be about 3.5 hectares in area, 260 meters of frontage on Second Lake Road. Lot number 2, approximately 0.79 hectares or 1.96 acres with 60 meters of frontage on Second Lake Road. And the third lot, about 0.85 hectares or 2.1 acres with about 65 meters of frontage on Second Lake Road. The retained parcel will have about 90 meters of frontage, and the retained parcel will have frontage along both Oak Flats Road and Second Lake Road. On this next one, you can see this is the configuration of the proposed lots, with the larger one at the bottom and the 2 smaller entering into the field area. Right here is the existing development on the property, which includes a house, garage, other such residential use accessory structures. I realize now I cut the map off, but just as along the edge of the map where it cuts off is Oak Flats Road, and then north-south running along the frontage of the proposed lots is Second Lake Road. These applications were circulated With regards to septic suitability, comments have yet to be received with regards to that. And that is partially because when they were circulated for review to Quinte Conservation Authority, there was some concerns expressed that actually the majority of this larger, most southern lot that's showing as wooded areas on our aerial actually is in fact wet woods, which is a sort of wetland area that's mixed forest and things. I'm not sure, I don't know enough about that. That is what conservation has indicated. And that they would be there, they have no objections to either of the two smaller lots. It's just the larger one at the bottom. They were uncertain that there'd be sufficient area for development that met a 30-meter setback from the areas identified as wetlands. As such, they have suggested a couple of different reconfigurations of lots, either slide all of them up slightly so there's some area on the larger one, remove the wooded area, and then have 3 lots only in the field. The applicant is open to different options, but has not yet made a decision as to which way they would like to go. Once that has been determined, the septic evaluation will then take place to ensure that the test holes are dug within the boundaries of the lot and not across lines or in locations that may not be part of the lot that was originally intended. So at this point, planning staff are recommending deferral of all 3 of these applications until such time that lot reconfiguration can be determined and comments can be received from conservation and septic suitability.
Thank you. Cindy, is there any comments from the applicant or the agent online with us?
Don't believe we have the applicant on the meeting.
We do not have them?
We do not, no.
Okay. Is there anybody in the public that might have a question or comment on these applications?
If there's anyone wishing to speak, please use the raise hand feature. I see none, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any member of the committee have any comment on these applications at this time? Hearing none, I'll say read the motion. Moved by Sherry Wan, second by Brent Cameron, that consent application B4521 Hinchinbrook Morey, part lot 3, consent 7 in the geographic township of Hinchinbrook to create a 8.65 acre parcel of new lot be deferred until such times as the concerns raised by the Quinte Conservation Authority have been addressed. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Cindy, yes? Okay, the motion's carried. Jenny, are any different information on the next 2 applications, B4621 and Morey's, the other 2?
No, they were all addressed through that single presentation, as they all have similar concerns with location.
Okay, they're just different description.
That's correct.
Okay. I have a motion moved by Francis Smith, second by Sherry Wan, the consent application B4621 Morey, part lot 3, concession 7 in the geographic township of Hinchinbrook to create a 0.79 hectare, 1.96 acre parcel as a new lot be deferred till such times as the concerns raised by the Quinte Conservation Authority can be addressed. Any discussion? All in favor? Cindy? Carried?
I'm on mute, Bill. Sorry, but yes for both.
Okay. The next motion we have is a move by Sherry Wan, second by Cindy Kelsey, the consent application B4721 Hinchinbrook Morey, part lot 3, concession 7 in the geographic township of Hinchinbrook to create a 0.85 hectare, 2.1 acre parcel as a new lot be deferred until such times as concerns raised with the Quinte Conservation Authority have been addressed. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion? Cindy?
Yes.
Thank you. Carried. So the next item we're dealing with is B48 Olden Hartwick, creation of new lot. Jenny or whoever.
It's Sonia this time. Thank you, Mr. Chair. you. So this is an application for consent to sever to create a new rural lot for the subject property, which is at 2160 McLean Road. The subject property has frontage along both McLean Road and Babcock Road, which are both fully maintained municipal roads. And the subject property is developed with a dwelling and accessory structures. The severed parcel is proposed to be a 4.1 hectare or 10.2 acre lot with approximately 251.5 meters or 825 feet along McLean Road. The retained parcel will contain all of the existing development, and the proposed severed parcel will be vacant with residential development anticipated. So the retained parcel will have 64.5 hectares or 159.3 acres remaining after the proposed severed parcel is removed. I will note that the committee actually reviewed an application for severance for this property earlier this year. And again, apologies, this map got cut off as well, but it was for a new lot. It was a 1.5 acre or 0.75 hectare lot that was up at it would be up here, it would be right at the corner of McLean and Babcock Roads. So that application was approved by the committee, but has not yet been deemed complete because the applicant is still in the process of fulfilling conditions for that severance. For this proposed severance, which is located here at the southwestern portion of the property, septic inspection comments from August 20th indicate no objection to the proposed new severance. The staff there indicate that there is sufficient space on the severed parcel to allow for flexibility in terms of siting a future septic system. The comments that we received September 3rd from Rideau Valley Conservation Authority also indicated no objection to the application as proposed. And to date, we have not received any comments from the public. Thank you.
Okay, Cindy, is there any comments from the applicant or their agent in regard to this application?
We do have the applicant on. Do you wish to speak? She has not raised her hand, Mr. Chair.
Okay, is there anybody in the public that might have an opportunity to ask a question?
See none, Mr. Chair.
Nobody? Okay. Committee members, do you have any comment in regard to this application? Seeing none? Okay, I'm going to read the motion. Moved by Cindy Kelsey, second by Francis Smith. The consent application B4821 Olden Hartwick for the property located on Part Lot 3, Concession 1 in the geographic township of Olden to create a 4.1 hectare, 10.2 acre parcel as a new lot be approved subject to the conditions noted in the planning report. And that the Secretary of Treasury shall issue the notice of decision in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act, including providing the notice of decision to the applicant and any person or public body that had made written request to be notified and any other person or public body prescribed, and that all conditions outlined in the notice of decision shall be completed and the certificate official issued within the period of 1 year after the notice of decision was issued as required by the Planning Act. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Cindy?
Yes, in favor.
Thank you. Motion's carried. Next item on the agenda tonight is Smale creation of new lot.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That will be myself again for this one. This is an application for creation of one new rural residential lot with frontage along Road 38. The proposed severed parcel will be about 0.77 hectares, 1.9 acres in area, with approximately 65.5 meters of frontage on Road 38. The retained parcel will have approximately 444 meters of frontage along Road 38 and be about 52.6 hectares or 130 acres in area. The property is zoned and designated rural in general, with some areas of mineral extraction highlighted. However, the areas zoned mineral extraction within the vicinity of the proposed lot are a result of a pit that was in place but has now since been removed and rehabilitated. and it's anticipated that the zoning bylaw update will accommodate this. So planning staff are not recommending a rezoning at this point. As you can see on here, the proposed severed parcel is located in this area. The area that's zoned MX is just below it. So really the only part that this would pick up is a small corner of the proposed parcel. So there was no concerns with that rezoning. There is an active licensed pit on this property to the north. However, this proposed lot is well outside the minimum 70 meters required for separation distance for a sensitive land use, and outside the 300-meter area of influence for active pits. So no further studies are required with regards to this. There is an existing livestock facility on the subject property. An MDS1 calculation was performed, and the subject property is well outside the area of influence of that livestock facility as well. So, which is located about there. You can see some of these things. So that distance is quite significant and well outside what the influence area for that is. So no further studies are required with regards to either mineral aggregate resources or minimum distance separation for farm development. This application was circulated to South Frontenac for septic inspection, and comments dated August 20th this year indicated no objections to the application as presented. This application was not circulated to Quinte Conservation Authority for review. So there are no natural human-made hazards that they're commenting on identified on the proposed parcel. There were no public comments received as of the date of the writing of these report and this meeting. Planning staff are recommending approval of the application as submitted.
Thank you. Cindy, are there any, is the applicant or their agent on the line by chance?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. Does nobody in the public have any questions in regard to this application?
If the public wishes to speak, please use the raise hand feature. I see no one, Mr. Chair.
Okay, committee members, do you have any comments on this one? Cindy, I have a question. Is this lot's not going to affect the roadside park there on 38, is it? It's north of that, am I correct? Jenny?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I do believe it's north and that the roadside park is actually south of 40-foot road rather than north of it.
Yeah, no, the roadside park doesn't go down to the 40-foot road, but it's okay. I'm just a question of interest. So hearing nothing.
Yes, no, absolutely. I did look at that when we were doing things. That was my first thought also when I looked at this was, isn't that where the park is? But no, it is not.
Yeah, okay. All right, any member of the committee have any further comments in regard to this application? Hearing none, I'll read the motion. Moved by Francis Smith, second by Cindy Kelsey, that consent application B4921 Hinchinbrook, Smale for the property located in Part Lot 6, Concession 2 in the geographic township of Hinchinbrook to create a 0.77 hectare, 1.9 acre parcel as a new lot be approved subject to conditions noted in the planning report. That the Secretary Treasurer shall issue the notice of decision in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act, including providing the notice of decision to the applicant, any person or public body that's made written request to be notified, and any other person or public body prescribed, and that all conditions outlined in the notice of decision shall be completed and the certificate of official issued within a period of 1 year after the notice of decision was issued as required by the Planning Act. All in favor of the motion before us? Cindy?
In favor.
Thank you. Carried. Okay, we're moving on to next item on our agenda is an application for minor variance. Jenny, are you handling this one too?
Mr. Chair, it's actually Dimitri.
Dimitri, go for it.
Thank you. Minor variance application A1521 seeks a variance to the required water body and front yard setback. The purpose of this variance is to accommodate the construction of an 18 square meter or 192 square foot screened porch on the water side of the dwelling, which will be located within the footprint of an existing deck, and a 33 square meter or 352 square foot dwelling addition that'll be located at the rear or the road side of the dwelling. The subject property is a waterfront lot located on the east basin of Charbet Lake at municipal address 1904 Shibley Road in the geographic township of Oso. The property is developed with a 119 square meter or 1,280 square foot dwelling, a garage, a bunkie, a class 4 sewage disposal system, and a drilled well. The property is also currently zoned as RW or residential waterfront. One thing to note here, of course, is that since the property is a waterfront lot, both the high water mark and the front yard setback are the same. So at the present time, the existing dwelling is located approximately 15 meters from the high water mark of Sharbert Lake. Therefore, any addition to the dwelling would not be able to meet the required 30-meter water body setback. Since the proposed screen porch addition will actually square off the existing dwelling, there is no reduction to the water body setback that's anticipated. The sewage system review at the Township of South Frontenac did not object to the application. South Frontenac staff indicated that the septic system was not in a state of failure at the time of inspection. However, due to its age, it may need to be replaced sometime in the near future. The Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority also did not have any objections to the application as proposed. They determined that the application will not result in a further reduction to the water body setback, and then that the proposed development is reasonable in size overall. MVCA staff recommended a list of standard conditions that include implementing sediment and erosion control measures during construction, ensuring that all excavated materials are appropriately disposed of more than 30 meters from the high water mark of the lake, and that natural drainage patterns are not substantially altered, and that any eavesdropping is pointed away from the lake, of course, permitting topography permitting. The MVCA recommended conditions have been included as additional comments in the staff report for information purposes. Overall, planning staff find that the proposed application meets the 4 tests of minor variance and are recommending that the Committee of Adjustment approve this application as submitted and subject to the recommendations and conditions outlined in the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dimitri. Is there any comments from the applicant or their agent, Cindy?
The applicant is on the line. Do you wish to speak, Mr. Hunt? He's not raised his hand.
Okay, is there anybody in the public that have any comments on this?
There is no one left.
Okay. I know the feeling. Does any member of the committee have any comments in regard to this application? None. I'll read the motion then. This is moved by Brent Cameron, second by Cindy Kelsey. In making a decision upon this application, the committee considered whether or not the variance requests are minor and desirable for the appropriate development or use of the land, building, or structure, and that the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw and the official plan will be maintained, or in the case of the change in the use of the property which is lawfully non-conforming under the bylaw or to whether or not this application has met the requirements of subsection 45(2) of the Planning Act, and concur in the following decision and reason for decision. The minor variance application A1521 Hunt for the property located on part Lot 9, Concession 2, Geographic Township of Oso, 1904 Shibley Road, for the reduce the front yard water body setback from 30 meters to 15 meters in order to build a 33 square meter, 352 square foot addition to the back of the existing cottage. Also to build an 18 square, 192 foot square screen porch on the existing deck on the water side be approved, subject to the conditions noted in the Planning Act, and that the Secretary Treasurer shall issue the notice of decision in accordance with the requirement of the Planning Act, including and providing the notice of decision to the applicant or any person or public body that has a written request be notified, and any other person or public body prescribed. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion before us? Cindy?
In favor.
Carried. Before our next motion is to adjourn, but before I do, I want to thank planning staff, all of you. You all know who you are, for shortening up these applications. I didn't even use a bottle of water tonight, and I'm really in favor of that. I think this form will certainly work in the future, and I'm glad of it. Does anybody else before we adjourn have any further comment for tonight's meeting? In that case, I will read the motion. It's moved by Francis Smith, second by Cindy Calcius. This meeting be adjourned until 4 p.m. on October 14th, 2021 virtually. Anybody want to vote against this? All in favor of the motion? Cindy?
Yes.
Carried. Thank you, everyone. And
Thank you.
have a good evening.
Thank you,
Now
everybody.
I'm off to my
Have a
my
good,
fourth
have a
meeting
good.
of the day.
Ah.
Have a good evening.